As a subsegment of what Dr. Estep talked about, transplants and heart pumps, these are something that in general, in the general public, you don't get exposed to. So we've taken this opportunity to actually have two of our patients to come and just share their perspectives of living with it. And I'd like to invite Timothy Lewis to come over and share his story briefly.
Thank you, Dr. Benraj, and I want to thank this panel for allowing me to come and be a part of this great symposium. My wife and I, we traveled about 700 miles to come here from Mississippi to be with what we call our families and friends here at the Houston Methodist Hospital. Also want to give many thanks to Dr. Jerry Estep and also Dr. Benraj and Dr. Astrid, Dr. Trachtenberg, Dr. Park, and all of our nurse coordinators here at the Houston Methodist, and my cardiologist back home, Dr. Mark Muhammad, for walking with us throughout this journey. It's been a journey that Tila and I, we did not choose, but it was a journey that we had to go on, like many of you all are sitting out here on today. We went on this journey. I do believe that as you hear my story, it was a purpose journey when we got diagnosed with congestive heart failure. In order to be standing here at this podium today to encourage the hearts of so many people, and not just here in Houston, but also in the state of Mississippi from where I live. If I told you my story, you'll hear of hope that wouldn't let go. If I told you my story, you would hear love that never gave up. If I told you my story, you would hear life, but that life wasn't mine. That life belonged to a young man by the name of Brandon Russey. His mother made a decision to give me the gift of life for me to be able to stand here and talk to you today. She made an unselfish decision to give me her son's heart. If I told you my story, you would hear victory. Victory that I had over congestive heart failure, victory that I had over the grave. Because Dr. Estep told me and reminded my wife and I that I was at the end stage of congestive heart failure, and I could not remain on the balloon pump much longer. I'm a 2014 heart transplant recipient. I'm also a miracle of grace. I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure on January the 21st, 2012. My heart was functioning at 25%. No, I didn't have all the symptoms that we heard earlier. The shortness of breath, the fatigue, the weight gaining. I didn't have any of those symptoms when I went to free heart screening. But after navigating through that process, the doctor told me that my heart was functioning at 25%. And I told that doctor that I had just finished playing basketball with our youth at our church. And as time went on, by May 18, 2013, everything that they said that would happen to me began to happen. My heart began to function less than 20%, and it was getting worse. I was losing my hearing. I was losing a lot of weight from this weight that I have now. I was losing the quality of life. I once enjoyed. I was losing my appetite. I couldn't walk very far without stopping for rest. And I found out very quickly living with congestive heart failure was no fun at all. It wasn't easy to do. It wasn't easy to do for me nor my family. But we had to keep fighting for life. We had to keep believing for life. And we had to keep hoping for life and praying for a miracle. And that miracle happened on January the 4th, 2014, right here at the Houston Methodist Hospital. I received not only a new heart, but I received new life. And that happened 3 years ago. Now, what is life to me after transplant? I shared with you all what life was before transplant. But what is it during the post-era of transplant? Well, you see some slides here that you will see that life is better for me. I not only have a good quality of life, but this life that I have now have exceeded the expectation that I could have ever dreamed of after having a transplant. I volunteer at our heart transplant center in the state of Mississippi, and I go there for one reason and one reason only: to encourage the patients, to bring hope to the family, to bring a flicker of life back into a crippled, inflicted body that may be sitting in the IC unit. I volunteer with the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency back home. I also started a foundation called I Am My Brother's Keeper, charitable foundation, and where my wife and we reach out to many heart transplant recipients or transplant patients, and we try to help them with financial needs that they may have to get to the life-saving treatments that they need. And why do we do that? Is because that we knew that was one of the reasons that was trying to hold us back from coming to Houston all the way from the state of Mississippi when we was recommended to come. The picture that you see now, when I was here at the hospital, I was in ICU, I believe on the Dunn 4, and my daughter and her fiance made a decision that they would have their wedding pushed back. They had it scheduled for March 2014, but when they got the news that I might not be here, they decided to push it back, and we had the wedding December the 21st, 2013, right here in the chapel of the hospital. The week before, I couldn't walk at all, but after much prayer, when they pushed me downstairs in a wheelchair, I was able to get up and I was able to walk my daughter down the aisle, as I had promised her when she was a child. And I'm so grateful for that. I promote organ transplant, I promote organ donation by participating in some of these events here. Those events there were in Cleveland, Ohio last year, where we had about 6,000 heart transplant recipients from across the United States gathered on those grounds, and we began to compete in athletic competition. And I want you to know that I walked away with 2 gold medals. I planned to get more, but we'll do it better next time. I also do 5K walking events. That's what life brings to you after transplant. It did it for me. I walked 3.1 miles I did 3 events this past month, and I compete against people who are what we call normal in our community, and I think I have a very good pace walking with them. I enjoy doing it. That's my exercise that I try to get in all the time. And my life is complete. I have my lovely wife with me. She's back in the back, and she's my caregiver. She's been my nurse. Sometimes she's my doctor. And for the patient, I would tell you, if you have a wife, listen to her. She knows best. And in closing, I would say to all the patient, keep hoping. Because when hope is realized, it comforts you. Not only does it comfort you, but it invigorates your body, it invigorates your soul, and it gives you the strength to fight on. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. This is Mr. Curtis Dumesnil, and I think he has a high-tech video message for us.
On May the 7th at 10 in the morning, I collapsed. I had a massive heart attack. I flatlined 3 times. They brought me back. I got hit with the news. You have congestive heart failure with a life expectancy of 5 years. So from February of 2009 until February of 2014, I just gradually crashed down and down, every year worse. When I came to the hospital, to Houston Methodist, for my evaluation, and I couldn't breathe, I was so sick, I did all the tests, and they started explaining to me about an LVAD pump and brought me the literature to read. So I chose the LVAD, and that's the smartest and greatest thing I ever did. I got my VAD on Tuesday, and I came to an ICU on Thursday evening. I woke up and I thought, man, I haven't felt this good in 4 or 5 years. My life before my LVAD was very active. I am just as active as I was then. I'm up 18 hours a day. I have traveled in motorhomes. I've traveled by plane. I fish. I hunt. I maintain a garden in my yard. And I just started a new business a while back. So life is really good when you get an LVAD. And I call him Mr. LVAD because he's pretty special to me. I am so blessed to be here and work with the patients that I've worked with. Because some people, they need just that little extra nudge from somebody besides a doctor or a nurse. The interesting thing about volunteering, a lot of times when I visit with these patients, they're scared of the procedure on many different levels. I went in to see this gentleman, and he had one excuse after another why he couldn't do this. So I could tell I wasn't getting to this man, so I left. And overnight, I got to really thinking about that. And I thought, this man's only 69 years old. He can't be throwing his life away like that. So I got up and got dressed and drove back down here, went straight to his room. And I looked at him, I said, you and I need to talk again. You're just not listening. Well, I need to go home. And he had his eyes closed. There's things I need to do. I said, what do you need to do? Well, I just need to. And I left the room again thinking, dadgummit, I did not reach that man again. Now, that was on a Thursday. Saturday afternoon, this past Saturday at 2 o'clock, my phone rang. He said, is this Curtis? I said, yes, it is. He said, I'm Mr. So-and-so, and I want you to know the look in your face, in your eyes, when I looked at you, told me I was making a big mistake. I'm going to get to LVAD. So he's back here in the hospital. But that one really got to me because I knew that man could be saved. He was throwing his life away. So I hope he does well in the future, but he should. Coming to Houston Methodist was probably the greatest thing I ever did to save my life. To be in that situation where I was and have lived through all of that, to be where I am now, is truly a blessing. I'm 70 years old, will be 71 July the 4th. You put 10 years on my life, you're talking 81. You see grandchildren grow up. You see your own grandkids get married. You have great-grandchildren. You don't have to miss all of that if you have the right heart team taking care of you. And Houston Methodist does have the right heart team that have the expertise, the knowledge, and the care to give somebody as sick as I was a new chance on life.
I'd like to thank Dr. Bimaraj and the heart team for asking me to be here today. I won't take up any more of your time because they're running late, but if you'd like, I have a booth out front, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have regarding your daily living and what it takes to have an LVAD pump. I am 3 years post-implant of my pump, and like I said, 10 years from 71 to 81, that's a long time. So God has been good, and I appreciate the blessings from Methodist Hospital and this team of great doctors. Thank you.